What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to be continuing my series of talking about testosterone. Specifically in this video, how to cultivate a high testosterone aura, okay? Because what you need to understand is that most of the characteristics that a lot of people associate with high testosterone actually have very little to do with whether or not you actually have high testosterone levels. All right, so we talked in the last video about how you can go about increasing your testosterone levels naturally, but the truth is, if you are in the range of testosterone between 300 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter total, and you have free testosterone that is within range, you're totally fine. Like, your body is perfectly healthy. You aren't lacking when it comes to actual testosterone. So if you are feeling tired, or if you are feeling like you aren't a very confrontational person, you're not a very energetic person, you're not a very motivating, inspirational type of person, you're not the type of person that you want to be, and you look at these other people around you and you say, why can't I be more like that guy? He's so ambitious, he's so hardworking, why can't I be more like that? I almost feel like I'm low testosterone and yet my levels are in range. Well, it's because, like I said, most of the attributes that are associated with high testosterone don't directly correlate to whether or not you have high testosterone. It's what I call the high testosterone aura, okay? It is something that ultimately needs to be practiced, and it needs to be cultivated through a series of actions and honestly going out of your way in order to practice these specific things. So I'm going to go over some really practical examples of what this looks like and how you can go about cultivating it, all right? So the main components when it comes to crafting a high testosterone aura, number one is going to be being confrontational. And what I mean by this is not being afraid to go against the grain, even when it means that you may be left alone. You see, guys, being alone is a lot of people's biggest fear, because they ultimately have insecurities about being by themselves, and a lot of people don't really like themselves to begin with because they're constantly breaking the promises that they make to themselves. It's why having habits and self-belief is so incredibly important, and keeping the promises that you make to yourself is so incredibly important, because it allows you to build up a relationship with yourself that is healthy. You like being alone with yourself. And that means when everybody else is going a specific direction, you can go the opposite direction. You can go do your own thing and have no problem with the fact that nobody else is accompanying you. You don't need that constant social affirmation to feel at home and feel comfortable, all right? So practice being alone and practice confrontation. What this would look like in a very common situation would be asking for something specific at a restaurant, saying, hey, I would like a side of fries. And then they bring you a side salad when the order comes around. A non-confrontational person would sit there and say, hey, I'm just going to sit here and act like they got my order right. A confrontational person would call over the waiter and say, hey, I got a side of fries with this. Like, where did the fries go? This is a side salad. A lot of people, you will notice, don't even like asking questions, even if other people are being out of line or other people are making mistakes. People don't like calling them out on their BS. And it's something that you have to practice. A lot of people find it incredibly uncomfortable because we're raised in a society that loves manners. They love being overtly nice and trying to make sure that everybody else is as comfortable as possible. Well, I don't want you to be as comfortable as possible. And in fact, I want you to actively make other people uncomfortable by doing things like questioning stupid rules, all right? If the government came and said, hey, everybody, you have to wear masks in order to go anywhere, in order to get anything, you need to be walking around with a mask on 24/7. That is a rule that you should question. You shouldn't just do it because everybody else is doing it. They ran a study where they had a doctor's office, waiting room, and they had 20 people in there. And for some reason, whenever the bell would ring, they would have 19 of the people stand up when the bell rang. And then when the bell rang again, they would all sit back down. And then they would put one person in there that wasn't a part of the actual experiment, and that person would automatically start standing with everybody else when the bell was rang, and they would sit when the bell was rang again. And they wouldn't even ask why. They wouldn't ask any questions. There is a strong level of social conditioning that is constantly trying to make us more passive. And as men, passivity is our enemy. We need to be active in life. We need to be questioning stupid rules. We need to be avoiding unnecessary apologies. When the waiter comes and brings you your side salad, you shouldn't say, "Hey, I'm really sorry to be a pain in the ass, but I ordered fries." Don't apologize for that. Say, "Hey, I ordered fries. This is a side salad. Can I get my fries?" That's as simple as it should be. So many people apologize when they have no business apologizing. You are simply telling the truth. You are being open. You are being honest. You are being direct. You are being confrontational. I want you to get used to avoiding these nicety manners that are so common in our society. You can still be a very, very kind person. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to be an asshole. You can be very, very kind, but don't be nice. And don't be apologizing when you shouldn't be. Never act as if you are afraid of confrontation, because you will be used as a man. People will start to take advantage of you if you are worried to confront people head on and say, "Hey, this is not right. I don't like this," or "We're going to be doing something differently," or "I'm going off by myself." You need to be actively involved in fighting against comfort and making sure that you are instilling a certain level of confrontation in your life. Number 2 is going to be acting nonchalant, all right? This one's so important. I actually made an entire video about this specific point. And what being nonchalant means is not expressing too much care in public, not expressing too much emotional involvement. And in fact, I want you to come across like you are seemingly emotionally detached. You are non-reactive when certain things are happening. I don't want you to be someone that is emotionally erratic, because I'll be honest with you. I used to be somebody that would get angry all the time. It was one of the biggest issues that I had. I was constantly praying to God, "Please make me a less angry person." Because when I would get angry, even in public, I felt like it would give me power, because people would get scared of me because they didn't know what I was going to do, because I was being emotionally erratic. I was violent. But now what I realize is that anger just actually comes off as weakness, all right? To be high testosterone and to have a high testosterone aura does not mean to be angry all the time and to be violent and to be emotionally erratic and controlled by your anger. It's actually the opposite of that. It's to be nonchalant. When people see anger, they see weakness. They see insecurity. When people see heavy emotional involvement, they see insecurity. What they see is your lack of control over your emotions. And so even if you are huffing and puffing, you are looking weak to these people. You are not looking like a strong, collected person. So make sure that you cultivate being nonchalant. Number 3 is going to be charisma and confidence, all right? I put these two together. What charisma has to do with is the ability to captivate people, the ability to entertain, to win them over. And confidence is very, very based around the actions that you do on a regular basis. Like I talked about earlier, having good habits and keeping the promises that you make to yourself and to your others is what builds that confidence. Putting in the work builds confidence. You need to know how to speak. You need to be able to Put your thoughts into words and practice this on a regular basis. I constantly tell clients that I work with for coaching, hey man, just practice talking to your phone every day. Like practice talking to a camera. You get so good at being able to express yourself and get your point across. And that's incredibly important when it comes to being able to win people over. All right. You need to be able to publicly speak. You need to be able to express what your thoughts are in your head. Make sure that you are progressively overloading your social interactions. If you are somebody who just can't stand to talk to women because you're terrified. You can't talk to random people at the grocery store. You fear every social interaction. You don't even want to leave your house, which is a problem with a lot of younger guys nowadays. You know, they don't even want to leave their house because they're just constantly on their computers. They're constantly on their cell phones. They're not forced into any sort of social interaction. And so you have to go out and you actually have to force yourself to do it. It's like progressively overloading. It's like training hard in the gym. When you put in the work, your muscles start to get bigger. But you have to go and you have to actually put in the work. Nobody's going to make you put in that work. All right? It's something that you have to hold yourself accountable to, is progressively overloading those social interactions. Get better at talking with people. Getting better at getting your point across, like I said. Now talk to everyone. This is a very, very key point. All right? I really want you guys to pay attention to this. Talk to every single person like you don't care what they think of you. It's so beautiful when you start to do this. I want you to treat every single person that you talk to like an overweight, ugly, stinky person. All right? They smell bad. It's the same principle of picturing the entire audience that you're about to talk in front of naked. You want to know why? Because what you do is you start treating everybody the same. You start treating them the same. Because what we do as humans, automatically, it's ingrained into our DNA. When there is a man of high status, or a woman of high status, or a woman of great beauty, we start to get incredibly nervous. We get anxious, and that comes across in our body language. Humans are constantly analyzing each other, trying to find weakness, trying to find insecurity, and we can sense it. We can sense it. So when you're talking to somebody, make sure that no matter who you are talking to them like somebody who you don't even know who they are. You don't really care about what they think of you. You're just having a conversation with them. And that's not saying don't be kind to them. But at the same time, what it does is it takes away what I call social positioning. All right? This is the reason why it's so important that you do this. Number 4 is stop social positioning. When you try to be a people pleaser constantly, what you do is you find that you are consistently trying to compensate and make yourself look good, trying so hard to act like you are really good at conversation, or to act like you are so intelligent all of the time, or to act like you are so put together, when in reality, you just need to stop caring about what people think of you. You need to stop positioning yourself. You need to stop having these manners that ultimately are doing nothing but portraying weakness to other people. And you need to understand that people can feel when you are doing this. They can feel when you're social positioning. It comes off as insecurity. And this is why it's so important to not care about how social interactions go. You know, a lot of people get hung up. You know, they say something stupid on accident, and then they just constantly can't get over the fact that they said something stupid. If you say something stupid, if you make a mistake, if you trip in public, just be like, man, that was stupid. That was kind of stupid of me. And just move on. Just move on. It's water under the bridge. Like, don't let those things that happen affect you moving forward, because people can sense that you get hung up about certain things. All right? This is why it's so incredibly key to stop social positioning and not care about what people think of you. It's why I tell men when they're talking to women to imagine them, even if they are an attractive woman, imagine them like they're hideous. Like they're 300, 400 pounds overweight and you're not attracted to them at all. All right? So what are a couple practical applications that you can really take and kind of walk away with. Number one is going to be not being afraid of silence. Did you get awkward when I did that? If so, this might be a problem that you need to deal with specifically. Because learning to be alone with yourself is learning to be okay with silence and not being afraid of it. When you're in the middle of a social interaction, people can sense if you are trying to constantly keep the conversation going and you come off like you are too involved. Be okay with silence. Say you're on a first date and you don't really have any questions that are coming to mind to ask the person in front of you. The person in front of you, they aren't really doing a great job of keeping up the conversation. Sit in silence for a while. It's not that big of a deal. Until another thought pops into your head, until there's something else to be said, be fine with the silence. Be totally okay with it. And when you show that you are unaffected by that, in that situation, what happens is often other people will get uncomfortable, but when you show that you're not uncomfortable in that situation, it shows confidence. It shows charisma. People will be drawn to you when you are not scared to be alone, when you are not scared of some sort of silence in a social interaction. Another practical application, not apologizing for things that you don't have business apologizing for, like I talked about earlier. That's a huge one. Number three is going to be not focusing on something embarrassing that happened. Like I said, if you trip, if you fall in public, if you say something stupid, don't hang on to it for too long, all right? And also having a very, very healthy amount of self-deprecating humor is important. You know, not too far to the point where people can sense your insecurity, but just being able to show people that you don't take yourself super, super seriously. Because when you take yourself super, super seriously, people will sense the insecurity. So don't take yourself too seriously. Don't be afraid to joke about how you might messed up about something, but then move on. Don't latch onto it. Don't say, oh my gosh, I'm so clumsy. I'm such a klutz, blah, blah, blah. I'm so awkward. You start speaking all of these things about yourself, which aren't true. It's coming off as insecurity. And all you're doing is you're putting yourself in a box and making the whole situation worse. So just keep moving. It's about getting into a flow. Get into the flow. Feel the rhythm of the dance that is life and social interaction, charisma, confidence, and ultimately developing a high testosterone aura, all right? Number 5 is going to be speaking slowly, all right? I want you to focus on slowing down your speech so that you actually have time to think about what you are going to say next. When you talk incredibly fast, you tend to say not so smart things. You tend to find yourself in situations where you said, oops, I probably shouldn't have said that. All right? I don't want you to run into that situation. Feel free to take pauses when you talk. Feel free to take your time when you speak. All right? Do it slowly. When you speak slowly, people think that you have a lot more to say than you are letting on. And you always want to do that rather than just launching yourself into conversation, not really knowing where you're going to take it. Because you end up saying something stupid, and it's another form of social positioning, all right? Next one is going to be make sure that you start starkly disagreeing with people. This sounds funny, but I used to be a person where I wanted to be considered as tolerant as possible. All right? So when people would come to me with these crazy beliefs that were just absolutely ridiculous looking back on it, I would try to act as tolerant as possible and say, oh, wow, well, I understand where you're coming from with that. Yeah, I guess you're a little bit different than me, you know, but I still respect your opinion. No, actually, there's a lot of people that I really don't respect. And I really don't respect a lot of people's opinions. Like, that's just how it works. It's okay to disagree with people. What you have to understand is that you probably have a very different set of principles than other people. You operate based off of a different code. And if you come from a different moral background, don't be scared to disagree with people. When it comes to politics, when it comes to like takes on modern social issues, feel free to put yourself out there and even just say stuff like, no, you're just wrong. Like, that's ridiculous. Say those types of things. Say what comes to your mind. When you are thinking, what in the world is going on here? Say what in the world is going on here. Don't get lost in the weeds trying to argue with these people, because often they'll get offended and then you're stuck trying to, say, oh, don't take offense to me. Now, you can take offense to me. I really don't care. That is the type of person that I want you to become. Be totally fine with just saying to people, hey, you're just wrong. That's ridiculous. What in the world is your moral framework? It's insane, all right? Don't feel bad to put yourself out there. Don't try to be as tolerant as you possibly can. Let your morals and your principles be the foundation on which you ultimately interact with people, all right? And don't be afraid to let those, principles come out. You don't need to be an asshole about it. I'm not saying that you should be. But when it comes to being grounded in your morals and your beliefs, that's actually the most high testosterone thing that you can do, is being willing to stand up for what you believe is right. And make sure that you look into those things, because I used to not really know what I believed. There were plenty of times in my life in the past where I look back on it and I'm kind of ashamed when it came to not standing up for what I believed in. So take a stand. Take a stand. And trust me, people will respect you for it. And people are going to hate you if you live like this. That's just the truth. People hate it when you are honest, when you are direct, because they are constantly trying to gain power over you by enforcing certain thoughts into your head and trying to get you to be as tolerant as possible and trying to get you to act with these specific mannerisms and trying to keep you being as nice as possible. This is just another form of control, and they're having control over you. So break free of those chains. Practice being confrontational. Practice being nonchalant. Develop your charisma and your confidence. Stop your social positioning. Talk a little bit slower and start not being scared to disagree with people. And you will find yourself cultivating an aura of high testosterone, all right? Make sure to drop a like on this video if you guys enjoyed. Make sure to drop a thumbs up in the comment section down below if you watched all the way through the end of this video, because if you did, you've got an attention span of steel, my friend. Well friggin' done. I'll see you in the next one.